The Peacekeeper vessel Eternal Order dropped out of hyperspace above Earth, its crystalline hull refracting sunlight in ways that human eyes found painful to watch. Supreme Arbiter Vexner stood on the command deck, his towering form wrapped in the ceremonial robes of his office, multiple eyes scanning the displays showing humanity's homeworld. "Status report," he commanded, his translator converting the musical tones of his native language into harsh, standard Galactic. "All Earth defense platforms tracked and monitored," his tactical officer reported. "Their primitive weapons pose no significant threat. Local space forces are maintaining their designated positions as ordered." Vexner nodded, satisfied. After centuries of maintaining order among the younger races, the Peacekeepers had developed a precise protocol for handling potentially problematic species. Humanity had been raising concerns lately, expanding too quickly, asking too many questions, showing dangerous signs of independence. It was time to remind them of their place in the galactic hierarchy. "Begin the demonstration," he ordered. In her office at the United Earth Defense Command, Director Helena Zhang watched the Peacekeeper vessel's arrival with an expression that revealed nothing of her thoughts. Behind her, holographic displays showed real-time data from sensors that the Peacekeepers didn't know existed. "They're right on schedule," she noted quietly. General Marcus Chen, commander of Earth's official military forces, stood at attention nearby. "Should I deploy our visible assets as planned, Director?" Zhang nodded. "Make it look good, General. Let them see exactly what they expect to see." Across Earth's orbital space, a careful choreography began. Defense platforms powered up with deliberately obvious energy signatures. Patrol ships moved into defensive formations that any military analyst would recognize as hopelessly outdated. Aboard the Eternal Order, Vexenor watched with satisfaction as Earth's forces responded exactly as predicted. "Predictable," he said. "Like all primitive species, they mistake obvious shows of force for true strength." His tactical officer's report was interrupted by a communication request from the surface. When Vexenor accepted, Director Zhang's image appeared before him. "Supreme Arbiter," she said, her tone carefully respectful, "Earth welcomes the Peacekeepers. We were not informed of your visit." "The Peacekeepers do not require permission to maintain order," Vexenor replied. "Your species has been displaying concerning behaviors, expansion beyond approved zones, unauthorized technological research, questioning of established hierarchies." Zhang's expression remained neutral. "We are simply trying to improve our world, Supreme Arbiter, as is our right under galactic law." "Your rights," Vexenor's tone carried centuries of assumed authority, "are what we determine them to be. The galaxy has an order, Director Zhang. Those who disrupt that order must be reminded of their place." As if on cue, smaller ships began emerging from the Eternal Order's hull. Peacekeeper enforcement vessels, each one capable of neutralizing a planet's entire defense grid. "A demonstration, then," Zhang said quietly. "To remind us of our place?" "Precisely." Vexenor was pleased she understood so quickly. "Your defensive platforms will be disabled. Your orbital shipyards will be dismantled. Your fleet will be reduced to minimal patrol capacity. This is not a negotiation." Zhang smiled then, and something in that smile made Vexenor's inner satisfaction falter slightly. "No," she agreed, "it's not." She pressed a button on her desk, and the galaxy changed forever. The first sign that something was wrong came from the Eternal Order's sensor officer. "Supreme Arbiter, energy readings, impossible readings appearing throughout the system." Space itself seemed to ripple as hidden stations and shipyards phased into existence. Not the primitive facilities the Peacekeepers had been monitoring, but massive structures incorporating technologies that shouldn't have existed outside the most advanced Peacekeeper worlds. "What is this?" Vexenor demanded. "This," Zhang's voice was no longer carefully respectful, "is humanity showing you our true face." Ships began emerging from the hidden facilities. Not the outdated patrol vessels the Peacekeepers had dismissed, but sleek warships that combined technologies in ways that should have been impossible. "You see, Supreme Arbiter," Zhang continued, "we've been studying you. For decades, we've watched how you maintain order across the galaxy, how you keep younger races weak and dependent, how you ensure no one ever grows strong enough to challenge your authority. More ships were appearing, their designs unlike anything in Peacekeeper records. Some seemed to phase in and out of reality itself, while others displayed energy signatures that defied analysis. "Impossible," Vexner whispered. "These technologies, the combinations, they're restricted, forbidden." "Forbidden by whom?" Zhang's voice carried a hint of amusement. "By the Peacekeepers? We stopped accepting your restrictions the moment we realized what you really were. Not maintainers of order, but enforcers of stagnation." The tactical officer's voice was edged with panic now. "Supreme Arbiter, their ships? They're using quantum phase technology combined with null field generators, but that combination should tear any ship apart." "Should it?" Zhang asked. "Or is that just what the Peacekeepers told everyone to prevent them from trying? You see, we discovered something interesting when we stopped believing your limitations. Most of them were lies." Vexnor's multiple eyes widened as he realized the full implications of what he was seeing. "How long?" he demanded. "How long have you been hiding this level of technology?" "Long enough to perfect it," Zhang replied. "Long enough to share it with others who were tired of living under Peacekeeper control." As if in response to her words, new ships began appearing throughout the system. But these weren't human vessels. They were ships from other primitive races, each one incorporating the same impossible technological combinations. "You didn't," Vexnor breathed. "We did," Zhang confirmed. "Every race you dismissed as weak, every species you thought you had under control, we reached out to them, showed them what was possible when they stopped believing your lies about what they couldn't do." The Eternal Order's sensors were reporting more ships arriving every second. Not just in Earth's system, but across the galaxy. On 100 worlds, hidden fleets were emerging, throwing off centuries of Peacekeeper control. "This isn't just a demonstration of Earth's strength," Zhang continued. "This is a revolution. One that's been building for years, while you were so busy maintaining your precious order that you never noticed the chaos growing beneath it." Vexnor's tactical officer was practically screaming now. "Multiple targets. They're surrounding us. Energy readings off the scale." "You have a choice, Supreme Arbiter." Zhang's voice was calm, almost gentle. "The same choice you've been forcing on others for centuries. Submit to a new order or be removed from it entirely." In the silence that followed, Vexnor realized that everything the Peacekeepers had built, every careful structure of control and dominance, had been based on a lie. The lie that they were the only ones who could be trusted with advanced technology. "You'll destabilize the entire galaxy," he warned. Zhang's smile widened slightly. "No, Supreme Arbiter. We're going to free it." The next few hours changed the face of galactic civilization forever. Across known space, Peacekeeper facilities found themselves surrounded by ships wielding technologies they thought nobody else possessed. On world after world, the carefully maintained facade of Peacekeeper supremacy crumbled. In the galactic core, the High Council of Peacekeepers watched in horror as reports flooded in from every sector. Supreme Counselor Zareth, his crystalline form pulsing with stress patterns, faced the emergency session. "How did we not see this coming?" he demanded. A junior analyst, braver or more foolish than most, spoke up. "Because we saw what we expected to see, Counselor. We watched their visible technology, their public developments. We never thought to look deeper because we believed our own propaganda about their limitations." On Earth, Director Zhang stood in the control center of humanity's True Defense Command, hidden kilometers beneath the public facilities. Around her, displays showed the revolution unfolding across the galaxy. General Chen approached with a datapad. "Reports from our allies, Director. The Centauri clusters are secured. The Proxima worlds have declared independence from Peacekeeper oversight. The Outer Rim colonies are reporting successful liberation of their sectors." Zhang nodded, studying a particular display showing the Eternal Order, now surrounded by ships it couldn't have imagined existing days ago. "And Supreme Arbiter Vexnor?" "Still considering his options," Chen replied. "Though given that his ship is effectively powerless against our combined fleet, his options are limited." "Send him a message," Zhang ordered. "Tell him we're willing to discuss terms, not just for Earth, but for all the races they've been suppressing." As Chen moved to comply, Zhang turned to another display, showing representatives from dozens of species, all the ones humanity had contacted and aided over the years, all the ones who had joined their quiet rebellion against peacekeeper control. "The hard part begins now," she told them. "Building something new is always more challenging than tearing down the old." A reptilian delegate from the Proxima world spoke up. "But we'll do it together, as equals, the way it always should have been." Zhang smiled. "The peacekeepers maintained their power by keeping us divided, making each race think they were alone in their struggle. They never considered what would happen if we started talking to each other, sharing our discoveries, combining our knowledge. They thought they were containing sparks," another delegate added, "but they were actually gathering kindling." On the main display, the Eternal Order finally powered down its weapons. Supreme Arbiter Vexenor's voice came through, sounding older and more tired than before. "We submit to your terms, Director Zhang. The peacekeepers recognize that changes must be made." "The first change," Zhang replied, "is understanding that you don't get to dictate terms anymore. The galaxy is entering a new age, one of cooperation instead of control, of innovation instead of restriction." As the day continued, more reports arrived from across known space. Hidden fleets emerging, suppressed technologies being revealed, centuries of carefully maintained control crumbling in hours. The revolution that humanity had spent decades preparing was reshaping the galaxy in ways the peacekeepers had never imagined possible. In her private office later that night, Zhang looked out at the stars, thinking about the long road ahead. Building a new galactic order wouldn't be easy, but humanity had learned something important during their years of preparation. True strength didn't come from controlling others, but from working together as equals. The peacekeepers had thought humanity was the weakest link in their chain of control. They never realized that chains could be broken, and that what came after might be stronger than anything they had built through force and fear. A new day was dawning for the galaxy, and humanity had helped light the way. They had proven they weren't the weakest link. They were the spark that ignited a revolution. And as the stars shone down on a changed galaxy, that spark was growing into a flame that would light the way to a better future for all species. The age of the peacekeepers was over. The age of true cooperation was just beginning. 3 days after the initial rebellion, the Galactic Assembly convened an emergency session. Representatives from over 1,000 species gathered in the massive chamber that had once been reserved for only the most advanced civilizations. Now, species that the peacekeepers had dismissed as primitive sat alongside their former overlords. Director Zhang stood at the central podium, her plain Earth military uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate robes of the former peacekeeper leadership. Behind her, holographic displays showed the ongoing transformation across known space. "For centuries," she began, "we were told that certain technologies were too dangerous to combine, that certain advances were beyond our capability to control. That order could only be maintained through restriction and limitation." The displays shifted, showing the new ships that Earth and its allies had developed. Vessels that broke every rule the peacekeepers had established about technological compatibility. "But these weren't laws of physics," she continued. "They were chains of control. And now that those chains are broken, we face an important question. What do we build in their place?" Former Supreme Arbiter Vexenor, now speaking as just one voice among many, stood from his delegation's position. "You cannot simply discard millennia of established protocols. The combinations of technologies you're using, the quantum phase drives with null field generators, the consciousness-linked AI networks, the temporal stabilization matrices, there are reasons these were restricted." "Are there?" A new voice joined the discussion. Dr. Rana Patel, Earth's lead scientist in the Rebellion Project, stepped up to the podium. Or were those reasons fabricated to prevent anyone from discovering what was truly possible? She activated her own set of displays, showing data that made even the former peacekeepers lean forward in surprise. "We've spent decades studying your restrictions," Patel explained, "testing each one, documenting the real effects versus what we were told would happen. Would you like to know what we found?" Without waiting for a response, she began presenting her findings. Quantum phase drives don't destabilize when combined with null field generators. They actually enhance each other, creating a stable field that allows for previously impossible maneuvers. Consciousness-linked AI networks don't lead to inevitable rebellion. They form genuine partnerships with their organic operators, achieving synthesis rather than conflict. The chamber erupted in discussion as species after species realized the implications. The Proxima delegate, a reptilian scientist named Suskar, added his own evidence. Once Earth shared their findings with us, we discovered similar deceptions in other restricted technologies, he announced. The temporal matrices don't cause universal instability. They create localized time-space bubbles that can be safely controlled. The fusion catalyst processes don't lead to chain reactions. They self-regulate at the quantum level. In the back of the chamber, representatives from the younger races were sharing their own discoveries, comparing notes on technologies they'd been told were beyond their understanding. The excitement was palpable as centuries of artificial limitations crumbled, but not everyone was celebrating. A delegation from the former Peacekeeper worlds watched with growing concern. "You don't understand the responsibility you're taking on," one of them warned. "These technologies, combined incorrectly, can be dangerous," Zhang interrupted, "just like any powerful tool. That's why we're not suggesting unrestricted access to everything. We're proposing something new, a collaborative research and development program, with all species working together to understand and safely implement these technologies." Dr. Patel brought up new displays showing the facilities Earth had been developing. "We've already established joint research centers across 12 systems," she explained. "Teams from different species working together, sharing knowledge, discovering new possibilities that none of us could have found alone." The displays showed laboratories where humans worked alongside former, primitive species, each bringing their own unique perspectives to problems that had once been declared unsolvable. "This is what the Peacekeepers feared most," Zhang continued. "Not that we would destroy ourselves with advanced technology, but that we would learn to use it together, that we would discover that their authority was based on artificial limitations rather than natural law." In the lower tiers of the chamber, a representative from one of the youngest spacefaring races stood up. Their species had only achieved FTL travel a decade ago, and under the old system, they would never have been allowed in this chamber. "How can we be sure," they asked, "that this new system won't just create new hierarchies, new restrictions?" Zhang smiled. "Because of this." She activated one final display, showing a massive database. "Every discovery we've made, every technology we've developed, every breakthrough we've achieved, it's all here, accessible to any species that joins the new Galactic Cooperative. No more secrets. No more artificial barriers to progress." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just a transfer of power, it was a fundamental reimagining of how galactic civilization could function. General Chen, who had been quietly observing from Earth's delegation, stepped forward. "We're not suggesting there should be no regulations," he clarified. "But those regulations should be based on genuine safety concerns, not artificial restrictions designed to maintain control." The next several hours were filled with intense debate as representatives from across the galaxy grappled with the possibilities and responsibilities of this new era. Former Peacekeepers argued for caution, while younger races pushed for faster adoption of combined technologies. Finally, a compromise was reached. The Galactic Cooperative would be established, with oversight committees drawn from all member species. Research would be shared, but with proper safety protocols and peer review processes. No single group, not Earth, not the former Peacekeepers, not any individual species, would have unilateral control over technological development. As the session drew to a close, Director Zhang met privately with Supreme Counselor Zareth, who had been unusually quiet during the proceedings. "You understand," he said, his crystalline form dim with resignation, "that what you've done cannot be undone. The galaxy will never be the same." "That was the point," Zhang replied. "The old system was based on fear of what might happen if younger races got too powerful, fear of technologies that might upset the established order. We're building something based on hope instead, hope for what we can achieve together." Zareth was quiet for a moment. And if that hope proves misplaced, if these combinations of technologies do lead to disaster, then we'll face it together, Zhang said firmly. That's the difference between your way and ours. You tried to prevent problems by restricting progress. We believe in solving problems by working together. As she left the chamber, Zhang passed dozens of informal gatherings where representatives from different species were already forming research partnerships, planning joint ventures, sharing discoveries that had been kept hidden for centuries. The revolution wasn't just about breaking the Peacekeepers' control, it was about proving that humanity and all the other primitive races were capable of more than they'd been allowed to imagine. They weren't the weakest links in the chain of galactic civilization. They were essential parts of a new network, stronger and more flexible than any chain could ever be. In the months that followed, the galaxy transformed. Hidden research facilities emerged on countless worlds as species shared technologies they'd developed in secret. New ships appeared, incorporating combinations of systems that the Peacekeepers had declared impossible. Trade routes expanded as artificial barriers to commerce and communication fell away. There were challenges, of course. Some former Peacekeeper worlds resisted the changes. Some younger races struggled with their new responsibilities. But slowly, steadily, a new order emerged. Not imposed from above, but built through cooperation and mutual respect. 1 year after the rebellion, Director Zhang stood in Earth's orbital command center, watching ships from 100 different species moving through the system. Each vessel represented a different combination of technologies, a different approach to solving the challenges of space travel. Was it worth it? General Chen asked, joining her at the window. All those years of preparation, of hiding our true capabilities? Zhang smiled as she watched a newly commissioned research vessel power up its quantum phase drive, its hull gleaming with the combined technologies of 3 different species. Look out there, she said, gesturing to the busy space lines. Every one of those ships represents a broken chain, a shattered limitation. We didn't just prove that humanity isn't the weakest link. We proved that there shouldn't be links at all. Just connections, freely formed and freely shared. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if reflecting the hope of a galaxy finally free to reach its full potential. Humanity had sparked the change, but every species would help guide what came next. The age of chains was over. The age of connections had begun.